All right, let's do this. Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the Uper Farmer YouTube channel. We're out here with our cigar talks tonight. Whew. For tonight, we have the wonderful, the awesome Liga Zebra from the American Viking Cigar Company. As I talked about in earlier videos, I'm really trying to support them and the guys at Cigar Daily. So I've kind of switched my cigar drinking or cigar smoking preference. For the drink tonight, we have the Raspberry Vanilla Porter from the Austin Brothers. Now, I've never had anything from the Austin Brothers. Neat can. It's actually embossed. So, little vanilla and raspberry dude on the motorcycle is raised. It's a very beautiful can. Very curious to see how this tastes. So, usually not much of a fan of the fruitier stouts, but I've been surprised. So we're going to give this one nice dark. Seems to have a pretty good head on it, actually. Oh, you can smell the raspberries. It'll be interesting. So nice, good, solid head, dark porter. So you can expect a little bit of coffee flavors, a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of raspberry. Let's find out. That's interesting. That is fruity. You can definitely taste the fruit. Very bitter on the porter part. Just a hint of vanilla, a little aftertaste of vanilla. Not bad. We'll definitely keep drinking that. So tonight, I hope you guys have been enjoying the homeschooling videos. I've been having a lot of fun. Kind of pretending like I don't know my wife or my kids when I interview them to talk about homeschooling. The plan is when my wife has a little more time, we're going to do more of an open discussion instead of that interview style where we pretend that we really haven't met one another. But I thought it'd be kind of a neat way to introduce homeschooling, as that is something that's kind of a cornerstone of our homestead here, is homeschooling our children. We get a lot of questions about it, get asked a lot about it. So those videos were more for information. We're going to get back to the swing of just some random topics here and there, which includes tonight. Tonight is a very random topic. We're going to talk about prison. So I recorded a video where I talked about the Gurkha controversy. I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day. I'm betting if I post that video online, this channel will be barred forevers, or someone will find that video and get me in trouble at work or whatever. I've expressed my viewpoints in there, expressed how we need open discussions, but as the world is right now, no one wants open discussions, no one wants viewpoints. But maybe a rant for another day. In that video, though, I talked about my experience with the penal system, or the prison system. So I worked for an ambulance company for about 10 years that our response area included multiple prisons. There's a little prison compound that was not far, actually, from our station. And to boot, I actually lived in the community next to all these prisons. Oh, and my light went ahead and died on me. Oh well. I've got to find a better lighting solution. And that light is barely lasting through one whole video before cutting out like that. I'm not excited about that. But considering it's just me basically talking, I think we can just go ahead and keep plugging on with this video. So, in this community I lived in, again, we were surrounded by prisons. I worked inside the ambulance, we responded to the prison systems, so I got to, on a shift, a daily basis when I was working, it was almost guaranteed we were going to go to the facilities. So you get to know a lot about the prison system. You meet a lot of prisoners, of course, and get to talk to them. And it's interesting. I have to admit that one of the biggest challenges for our EMS providers was to treat a prisoner like they're human. Some of these men did, and it was all male prisons. They did some really horrible things. Murder, rape, incest, hedge fund scammers who stole millions of dollars, drug lords, serial killers. I actually got to treat a couple of serial killers. The list goes on and on. But when you're working in the ambulance, those things can't mean anything. At least not in how you're to treat a person. They are a patient. They need your help. It is difficult to treat them just like you'd treat a 90-year-old grandmother of 10 saints, 3 priests, and a nun. It's difficult. You want to judge these people and treat them almost as less of a human because of their background, but you can't. They are humans. They deserve our respect. They deserve the same medical treatment, care, and compassion that we'd give any other person. You'd have to treat them a lot like you'd treat your own family. Like I said, some providers had a real hard time with that. I had a little bit of trouble, but due to my upbringing, I was very much a do not judge, do not treat someone differently just based on their past, or even sometimes their present. So I was able to treat these inmates, again, like they were anyone else, like they were a member of my family even. And I was told I was one of the more preferred paramedics for that reason. Guys appreciated when I was on duty because they knew they were going to be treated like they were civvy, like there was someone on the outside. So that was kind of cool. I did have a little bit of a reputation in the prison, although about 6 years in while I was working there, I also got the reputation of Dr. Death. A lot of the prisoners I treated either died in facility or died shortly after getting to hospital. So my reputation kind of changed a little bit. Some of the prisoners definitely, some were scared to see me at that point. But it was an interesting experience. I'm really glad I got to have it. One, again, you learn true compassion. To treat an individual who you have proof that they have done something illegal, sometimes horrifying, but then treat them like they are a human. It's a very humbling thing. It was a great lesson. I've been tempted to go back. There's prison ministries. I've been tempted to join up with those to kind of get that experience again and share it with others. Share that idea of going into these facilities and kind of pushing aside your preconceived notions of someone based on, again, their looks, their appearance, their situation in life. Who knows? Maybe one day I will. But tonight I learned a lot of stuff from prisoners. Life lessons. I learned tips and tricks for being in prison. Whole bunch of interesting experiences, and I'm going to share a couple of those tonight with you guys. Take them as you will. Again, this isn't me saying that I served time in prison. This is just saying this is talking to individuals, treating individuals who are in the penile system or the prison system. So the first one that I'm going to share was an interesting individual. He had attacks of, I think it was sickle cell anemia. Basically, he had pain attacks. He'd have these waves of pain, very debilitating condition for him. And he had triggers. He'd always tell you he's got different triggers. So if he ate something wrong or exercised or didn't drink enough water, he'd have these pain attacks. Usually he'd just ride them out, but sometimes he'd call 911. So I was sitting down with the guy in the back of my ambulance. Now, our transport times were pretty extended when it came to inmates to get them to the hospital. We had to take them to a specific hospital. So we had time with them to talk and socialize and whatnot, shoot the shit, which I do really enjoy. I'm guessing you can probably gather that since these talks are pretty much what I do on the ambulance. Stream of consciousness, just talking with an individual. Again, I'm not really trained as an interviewer or anything. I just kind of roll with it. So I'm rolling with it. I'm doing my assessment. Ask about family history. Yeah, he's got a family history of this. And okay, mark that down on the chart. And every patient got asked this. Did you do any drugs? Illegal drugs, street drugs, stuff like that. And the guy just went off of me. No, that stuff's poison. I tell my boy, if I ever catch him doing drugs, I'm going to beat the living hell out of him. Okay. I can respect that. Again, not every prisoner does drugs. That's one of the things we do kind of gravitate towards. But the CO was like, whoa, wait a minute. They always had a chart, paperwork of the prisoner, including in this chart was what they were convicted for. So he says, wait a minute, you were convicted for selling drugs. And you mean to tell me you sold them but you never used them? Which that was rare. A lot of the guys who ended up on the inside who sold drugs usually did the drugs, and that usually ended up leading to their arrest. Because when they did the drugs, they usually bit into someone else's profit, so they got turned in, or they just got stupid while they were on drugs and got paranoid and got themselves convicted, or got themselves caught. So I was kind of intrigued. I was like, well, are you sure? And he said, well, let me tell you a story. He said, yeah, I sold drugs. I admit it. He said, but you want to know what my life was like before I started selling drugs? So I bit. I said, well, we got another 25 minutes. Tell me your story. What do you got to tell me? And he looks me in the eye. He says, I worked 3 jobs. I'd get up at 5 a.m., work until about 3. Then I started working at a restaurant at 4. And then from 4 to about 10, I worked at the restaurant. And then at 10 o'clock, I'd go offload and load FedEx trucks until about 2 in the morning. And then I get home, go to bed, wash, rinse, and repeat. And he talked about how he lived in a very sketchy part of town. It was hard for him to make bills and cover his rent and his utility bills. He had 3 kids, and all 3 kids had delinquency problems. He said, my boy was going down the wrong path, my oldest. And I talked to a friend of mine, and he said, what your boy needs is some time with his father. He's like, well, I can't find any time. How can I find time to be with him? I got to work 3 different jobs. So his friend said, well, what about selling drugs? And the guy didn't want to have nothing to do with it. Again, drugs are poison, drugs are murder. Until his friend kind of detailed the daily schedule he could have. He said, so he got into the drug trade and found that he didn't go into work until 9 or 10, which meant he was home to make his kids breakfast. He could then drive them to school and make sure they stayed at school. At 9 or 10, he'd go start selling drugs until about 3:30, when he'd then go pick up his kids. He had money to support his family, to pay his bills, to pay his rent. If all of a sudden his son called him up because he was getting into some trouble at school, he could drop everything, go take care of his son. He said he could provide the best life for his children by selling drugs. And he was very honest. He says, when I get out of here, guess what I'm going to do? And I joked with him. I knew what his answer was going to be, but I was like, go down to the employment office, right, and get a factory gig. He laughed at me, of course, because he knew that I knew what he was going to do. He was going to go back to selling drugs. So you might be asking yourself, what's the life lesson there? To lead a life of crime? No, of course not. It's about priorities. I also treated a lot of individuals who worked their ass off at legitimate legal jobs, and I'd hear the same story from them. Kids were delinquent. They were keeping up with the Joneses, high-stress careers. Getting up at the crack of dawn and going to bed long after the sun had set. And every one of them will tell you they're a family man. Well, if you are, why aren't you spending time with your family? And this prisoner really challenged me. He said, I could spend time with my family. That's what was important. Sure, he said, I might lose some sales or, have some trouble. Money might be a little tight that next paycheck. He's like, but my kids were loving me. They were doing great. They were productive members of society. I knew I had money coming in. So, although it wasn't exactly what I necessarily wanted to be doing, it's what I needed to be doing. And I do run into a lot of people on the ambulance who they're chasing the dollar. They'll tell you they want to spend time with their family, but yet they do anything but spend time with their family. So I really did think this prisoner I treated, he had it. He got it. You know what? He put his family first. Now again, I'm not advocating anyone goes out there and sells drugs, but really look at your life. If you're working 2-3 jobs, well, what's the point? Can you cut back on other expenses? What's the most important for you? Is it chasing the buck? Like this guy said, he just wanted to chase the almighty dollar, make more money, so he could have more stuff. When in truth, he found out, no, I want to spend more time with my kids. I actually treated a lady a few years after that. And she got exhausted is what happened. She was working multiple jobs because she figured her family needed more stuff, more money, bigger house, better cars, all that. And she, on the ambulance, I was talking with her. I think I actually had to transfer her to a facility that was about an hour away. So we had a good long chat. And she was telling me, oh, my family's the most important thing in my life. I'm like, well, what'd your family and you do today? Nothing. What'd you do this weekend? Nothing. Prep stuff for work on Monday. Huh. Okay. Kind of got her a little bit of her life story. A lot of people share their life stories with paramedics, which is cool. We don't mind hearing them, and we'll add our 2 cents in there, our little complimentary therapist time. I've given a lot of that throughout the years. And I challenged her. I says, if your family's so important, why does it sound like you're sacrificing your life for work? And of course, she gave me every excuse she could. Well, I'm a vital member of that company, and I feel so fulfilled when I'm at work, and I know I'm doing good. And I told her, you probably are. But then you can't sit here and tell me, or anyone else for that matter, that your family is number one. Because you should be losing your health and your time taking care of your family, not taking care of this business, this job. Jobs do come and go. I know that very much from firsthand experience. And that's fine. If you want your job, your career to define you, hey, power to you. Cheers. You can't really see the glass. I tried to cheers to you. Good for you. I will not slight anyone for wanting to make their career their most important thing. But if it is, then don't lie about it. Don't lie and say it's your family. When clearly it's not. clearly the most important thing to you is that job, is making the next dollar. And I do know that's a little pretentious, because if you don't make money, or you can't pay your bills, and I know it's even more cliche to say, well, just live within your means, because it seems like every year, with inflation and all the stupid policies our federal government comes up with, that also gets harder and harder every year. It can be done. There are sacrifices that can be done, can be made. Nothing frustrated me more than when I lived in a lower income neighborhood, and you had people talking about, oh, I'm so poor, I don't have any money, while they're texting on their brand new iPhones and subscribing to the newest channels on cable, and wearing brand name this, brand name that. Yeah, I think I can understand where you could save a buck or two. So, it was an interesting life lesson to learn from a prisoner. And again, I'm not saying I'm shocked or surprised. Actually, in my career, like I'm probably going to touch on other videos as this one's getting a little bit longer, I did learn a lot of lessons, a lot of life lessons from being in there. But this one was very interesting. What is important? And is it important? Do you actually make that number one? I know people who say, well, God is number one in my life. Okay, well, what do you do on a daily basis? Oh, I go to work, then I go to the bar, I go to see a couple of friends, go to the movie. Well, it kind of sounds like you push God back in your plans. I've had students tell me, oh, passing medic is number one for me. I want to be the best medic ever. Well, what'd you do this weekend? Yeah, sat on the couch, played video games, watched TV, went out to dinner. All right, well, it kind of sounds like you pushed paramedic down on that list. And they'll get snippy. Well, what do you expect me to do? Go and, study nonstop? Yes. If what you want to do is, if being a paramedic, a good paramedic, is the most important thing of your life, yeah, I'd expect you to do that. I've had quite a few little slaps in the face, too. I'll talk about that one probably in a future video, about how I was one of those people. I'd tell you, my family is the most important thing in my life. And then I'd work a bunch of overtime shifts. I tried to climb the ladder at the ambulance garage. I signed up to be a critical care paramedic, pediatric specialist, treating the ped runs. I lost a lot of time. And again, like I said, I was glad I had that prisoner share that life lesson with me. I do hope that he is out there providing for his family. Raise a glass for him. Cheers, sir, if you're still there. Hopefully he's out being that good father he wants to be, because that's what's important to him. If he's back in the facility, I hope whatever medic is taking care of him treats him with dignity and respect that he and every other prisoner, every other person for that matter, deserves. Wish him the best. Again, I'm not going to invite him over for dinner if he is on the outside. And that's because, I don't trust 100%, but I can respect him. But yeah, what's important in your life? And do you mean it? Or if given the choice to make another dollar, play the newest video game, go to the bar, sleep in, watch a movie, will those, if given the choice, push that most important thing down on the list? If it does, my advice is re-examine your list. Don't lie to yourself. I'm a big fan of not lying. So either tell people the truth. No, my job is the most important thing in my life. My kids take number 2. But if you really want your kids to be number 1, own up to it. Change your life. Change your career. Change what you do. Like I said, I might talk about that one here in the next video. my lying to myself. When I lied to myself about what was most important and what caused me to have that shift, to change my priorities. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I hope everyone's doing good. Hope you stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you next time.